Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Joseph. When I posted the behind the scenes of this photo shoot and showed you, some of the before and afters, a lot of you guys were really interested, especially when I asked if you wanted me to do like an editing walkthrough. But I noticed in the comments, you guys were specifically asking me to show you how I clean the background and also how I insert the portrait of our subject into the TV. Now, looking at the image for the second time, there are things that I find very distracting right now that I don't even know how I missed, or maybe I thought at that time they looked good. But because you guys are making me do this again, I am noticing certain faults. I'm going to draw your attention to it that I feel have taken attention away from the image, and hopefully I can improve in what I'm about to show you guys again in today's video. So when I was doing this edit in the beginning, I felt that the light spill on the background was actually adding a bit of character to the image, and so at that point I really liked it, and that is why when I was cleaning up the backdrop I did not get rid of it, right? If I show you the before, you'll notice that I even actually did go in here to clean the backdrop, and I just left the light over here like that. But now that I'm looking at it again, I can see that it is distracting, and I feel like if it had the same blue tone running through the entire image, it will have made a lot more sense. And the second thing is the insert in the TV. This TV is not a flat screen, but when I inserted the portrait, it didn't bend to the character of the TV. So it's looking flat. If I zoom out again, you can see that that image in the TV looks a lot brighter than the exposure on our subject's face. And I feel right now that it is actually drawing attention away from our subject. And if I fix those in what we're about to do today, I think it's just going to help elevate the image a lot more. Now, one thing is, because this background is just one simple solid color, cleaning the background is actually easy. And you'll see the way I did it. So if I zoom in to the before shot, you can see that the floor is very dirty from her shoe marks and just basically like some folds and all that, but it's actually very easy to clean. And like in school days, we were saying understanding the question is part of the examination. So if you understand like the core elements that you want to keep in the image and the things that you want to get rid of, and you understand how Photoshop works, you can quickly solve some of these issues as you're about to see me do. So I'm just gonna move on to the next screen and then show you the things that I want to do. Now, speaking about the TV one last time, I also feel like if the exposure on here was a little bit low, so it's not fighting against the exposure on a subject's face, and then I also added a bit of like a vintage TV filter to it, it would have just made it look a lot more believable. Again, if I just hide the edit, you can see that the TV itself has like a conical shape to it. In the middle there is like this little glow that I believe if I add as an attribute to the insert, it's just going to make it look a lot believable, right? And also in the corners you can see that it goes a little bit dark, and I feel like if those are things that I introduce into the insertion, it's just going to make it look a lot believable. So those are the things that we are going to actually try and solve to help elevate the way this final image looks. So starting off, this is our raw file. This is what I imported from Capture One into Photoshop, and this is what we're going to be working with. So now we're about to start working on removing all the distracting elements in the background. So like the door, the paper, the stands, all these distracting elements, we're just about to get rid of that, and we're going to do that with a selection. I've already gone ahead to create a selection. I used a pen tool to draw a path around my subject, and I also mixed a bit of the select subject feature in Photoshop to do that. I don't want to drag the video, so maybe I'll create a dedicated video on selecting subjects in Photoshop, but today's video is just about using this. So before I move on, I want to always create a duplicate of my background layer so that if I make any mistakes, or if I even need some elements from that background, I can easily pull from that. So what I'm going to do to create a duplicate is just simply hit Command J, and that creates a duplicate of my background layer. You can see if I hide this and make it visible, nothing is changing, right? It's the exact same copy. Now what I'm going to do is go onto paths, and I'm going to hit Command and click on that, and it's going to turn the path that we created into a selection. So if I go back onto the layers panel and I click on the layer mask icon, it is now going to convert that selection into a layer mask, and this is very, very important. If I hide this layer 0 for now, you can see that we have our subject visible and everything else in the background is completely gone. This has done, let's say, a 90% of the job already, because we have a blank canvas that we can work with. So what I'm going to do is click on this icon right here, and I'm going to go over to solid color. Selecting solid color is just going to bring this color picker dialog box, and you can choose any color in the world that you want. So if I just press OK, for example, it's going to bring up this pink background, but because it's on top of our layer 0 copy, we can't see what's happening. But if I drag it underneath, now you can see that our subject, which we cut out, is now fully visible on this brand new background that we have added. Definitely, we don't want to keep this pink color. We want to change it to the blue that we saw initially. And so all you need to do is just double click on this icon right here. It's going to bring up the color picker again. And in this case, because I want to pick a blue that is already existing in the image, I can now just move my mouse out of the dialog box, and it's going to turn into a color picker. And I'm going to select right here, and that automatically changes the background to blue. If I want to pick any color here, shirt again, I just click on that, and it's just going to be selecting anywhere that I click on. You can see even black is being selected, but I want to keep the blue, so I'm just going to go in between her shoes right here, click on that, and it's going to change it into blue. I'm just going to press OK for now because it pretty much has done like majority of the work, right? But you notice that the issue with this selection, subject being visible on the background, is that if I zoom into her hair, for example, you can see that it isn't really blending into the background nicely. You can see it has these rough edges, and if anyone zooms into this image, you'll notice that there has been a cutout and it's not looking believable at all. So we do need to fix these things, right? If I also come down all the way here, you'd see that the shadows that we had in the beginning didn't make it into the selection, and so it looks like she's floating over this plain blue background. So we need to fix these things. We need to bring these shadows back and then make our selection or our subject look more settled in place, look more believable. I don't want to distort this layer mask that I already spent so much time drawing and perfecting, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to group this subject and the background into a new group. So I'm going to select both of them and then hit Command G. That is going to create a new group out of that. And then let me just call this subject. All right, so now we have our subject. If I just hide that, you can see that we just go completely onto a blank layer. If I make the background visible, you can see that now it's showing through, and then what we just did isn't showing through. But when I make the subject group visible, now you can see that the adjustments we made are visible, right? All right, so this is where we're going to borrow from our background layer, because when I hide the subject group, you can see that the shadows are present, all the distracting elements are back again. But what I want to borrow from this background layer is actually the shadows right here and the shadows right here, and also the shadows just around where the TV is. Those are the things that I want to borrow from the background layer, right? Now, the thing about layer mask, like I said again, is anywhere that is black is going to allow your adjustments to show through. Anywhere that is white isn't going to do that, right? So black hides, white reviews. Okay, so now that I've made my subject group visible, I'm just going to click on the layer mask icon, and this is going to add a layer mask onto that group. Because it's white, it's still revealing everything inside of that subject group, but what I want to do is paint with black in certain areas to delete those and allow the background layer 0 to show through that. Okay, if I press and hold Alt and click on the layer mask attached to my subject, you can see that we are seeing a layer mask which is currently white. Okay, and if I just go on with a brush, a regular brush, I just want to show you guys something and set it to 100% and then just draw like through that. All I'm doing is painting with black on the layer mask, and when I deactivate it for you guys to see, you can see that the stroke that I made is revealing the background through that. All right, if I still draw more black lines in it, you can see that we are beginning to reveal our background. And when I go all the way to even filling the entire layer mask with black, as you see, now we have our background completely showing through. But definitely this is not what we want. We want to show selective parts of our background, especially the shadow areas. So I'm going to fill the layer mask again with white completely, and what we're going to do is we're going to use a very soft brush, and we're going to reduce the size to just about the size of the shadow that we want to bring back. And I'm going to paint with black, and as you can see, painting with black is bringing back the shadows that we left behind. All right, so just like that, we've brought the shadow back. I'm painting over here as well. I've brought the shadow back, and I want to bring the shadow that is attached to the TV back as well. So something like that. Now, when I zoom in, you can see that we have brought that shadow back. We've, made our subject look more in place because it looks like she is a part of the background. She is settled in, but definitely I overpainted, and then there are certain things that I want to, take away from the shot because we spent a lot of time again drawing our subject out of the background so we can get rid of all the unwanted elements, right? So I'm going to switch between black and white, and now I'm not going to use a very high flow. I'm just going to go to, let's say, about 18%, and then gradually paint with white to get rid of the areas that I don't want to be visible in the frame. So just painting with white over here like that. It's just getting rid of these unwanted elements. So paint with white over here as well. And maybe just even reduce the shadows over here because we don't need it to be looking that big. We can refine it just a little bit. And I think something like this looks good, right? But then again, the TV shadow looks a little bit cut off. We need to fix that. So what I'm going to do is just create a new blank layer on top of everything. I'm going to hit B for my brush tool, and I'm using my regular brush and I'm making it very soft. Just going to reduce the flow to, let's say, about 4%. And what I want to do is just blend the shadow in. So I'm just selecting and then painting that out just like that, bringing some of that background back in. I'm just, basically reducing the shadows and then just blending in so it looks a lot believable. I'll do the same thing over here. Just paint over the shadows and then just, lighten them up just a tiny bit and set it in place. So something like this I feel looks good. And now zooming in, you can see that we still brought along, even though we wanted primarily the shadows to come along, we still brought the dirt that was a part of that background, and we can fix this easily. What I'm going to do is, instead of using my regular brush, I'm going to switch to the mixer brush. And what I'm going to do is make sure that sample all layers is checked, and I'm just going to zoom in a tiny bit and also reduce the size of the mixer brush, make it very soft. And now when I start painting, you notice that I'm getting rid of the dirt by smoothing the dirt and then just blending in with the surrounding areas. So all I'm using is the mixer brush just to paint this out and basically get rid of the dirt. I'll scan around the image. If there's any other area I feel needs a bit of cleaning, I'm just going to use the mixer brush to fix that. Alright, I think this pretty much does everything the way I wanted. The shadows look believable. Everything just looks really well done. So now the next thing that I want to tackle is inserting the portrait into the TV. Now the thing is, I want the portrait to conform to that conical shape of the TV. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blank layer. I'm going to hit M to bring up my marquee tool, my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to draw like a square or a rectangle just around this area, and I'm going to fill that with white. So Command backspace, it fills it with white. I'll deselect that, and now we have a white shape just about the size of the TV. I'm just clicking and dragging around so you know that it's not attached to any other layer underneath, right? What I'm going to do now, and this is very important, you need to convert this shape into a smart object, all right? We'll right click the layer and then just click on convert to smart object. What this is going to allow us to do is conform this shape to the TV's shape, but still allow us to insert the portrait. And let me show you how that's going to work. So now that I've converted it into a smart object, I'm going to hit Command T, and this is going to bring up the transform tools. And when I click on this transform icon right here, it's going to allow me to warp this rectangular shape into place. And so when I drag any of the corners, you can see that it is giving me, liberty to bend this into any shape that I want. I'm just going to drag the corners into the corner part of the TV, just like that. Perfect. And I'm going to bend the middle parts just to conform to the shape of the TV. Alright, so if you guys can see, what I've done is basically just try to create like a conical shape. I'm just going to bring the corners in just a tiny bit. And when I hit the check mark, this is applying the adjustments that I made. Right, so now that we have this shape just about the way I want, we can still make further adjustments to it. I'm just going to double click the layer 2, which is the rectangular shape that we have transformed into this conical shape, right? Double click that and it creates a new document with the initial rectangle that we created. All right, what I want to do is I'm just going to make copies of these. So our portrait and our TV effect, I want to drag those onto this new rectangular shape that has been created for us. So shift, select both of them. I'm going to right click and I'm going to duplicate layers. Now I'm going to move this onto the layer 2.psb because that is what contains the rectangular shape that we created. I'm just going to press OK and I don't need this anymore, so I can just close that down. And now that we're on that document, you can see that we have moved our background and our layer 3, which contains the effect, onto this brand new document, right? Because I want to retain the quality of our portrait and the effect, I'm going to change each of them into smart objects as well. So convert this into a smart object, and then I'll convert the background layer also into a smart object. Doing so is going to allow me to resize, so make them smaller, make them bigger, stretch them, do whatever I want without losing the quality that they have. I'm going to select both of them, hit Command T, and now we're just going to resize it until it fits our frame. So I'm just dragging the corners of the transform tool, making it smaller until we just get about the size of our rectangular shape right here. I'll press OK, and for now I don't really care about the way the filter looks. I'm going to hide that. I want to adjust the portrait to fit the TV frame. So I'm going to hit Command T to bring up the transform tools, and I'm just going to drag until we fill all the entire areas that are looking white with our portrait. You can see that she doesn't look centered, so all I'll do is just move the portrait up to a place I like, so somewhere like this I think looks good. I'll hit the check mark and this applies our portrait to the shape. Alright, so for now, if I hit Command S, this is going to save everything that we have made onto this layer 2.psb, and once you hit save, it's going to apply onto the TV, and you can see it's also adjusted to that conical shape that I created, and it has imported the portrait on there. If I go back onto the layer 2 and then make the effects visible, if I hit Command S and it's done saving and I go back onto the document that we're working on, you'll see that it has rather applied the effect on there. So any adjustments I make onto the layer 2.psb documents, which is a smart object that has been created into this conical shape, it is going to update immediately, right? So what I want to do is just make sure I'm blending. So I'm just going to change this to screen, and the reason why I said it's very important to have this effect on a contrasting background, like a black background, is that anything that is black is going to be hidden and anything that is white is going to be revealed. So basically this is just adding that TV effect, you know, that filter onto the image. But I don't like how strong it is. I'm just going to bring the opacity down to about 57%. And when I hit Command S and we go onto our document, we should wait as it's loading, and as you can see, it has applied the adjustment that we made onto the TV. We still have a few more things to do, right? I don't need to make any adjustments here anymore, so I can quickly just close that. But in case I change my mind, I can always just double click on the layer 2 and it's still going to open this PSB, and then I can make an adjustment. So for example, if I want to, you know, just raise or maybe just bring her like her portrait down, actually let me just go up a little bit more and apply that. Once I save, it's going to immediately update over here as well. So any changes you make again onto your PSB file, which is attached to the smart object, is going to update immediately. All right, so looking at this right now, what I want to do is, you know, just probably play around with some of the blending modes and see what looks good. I think lighting looks good. I think I like lighting. I'll just keep it at lighting. And what I want to do now is just add a layer mask onto it. I want to reduce the opacity of that so it's not too visible. And now with a normal brush, what I want to do, like I said, if I just hide this temporarily, you can see that we have some hard edges and then we have some darkening going around in the corners. That is what I want to replicate. So with the layer mask attached and my foreground set to black, I can now just paint with a regular brush, you know, with a medium flow. I'll just go down to 6% and then just try as much as possible to blend the edges in a little bit. All right, so just hiding that, you can see that it is looking a lot believable. If I hide the layer mask, you can see we still had that same issue, but just playing with that, you know, blend tool and then just masking it into place just makes it conform a little bit well to the TV. What I want to do is just, you know, reduce this area a little bit because like I said, the TV itself, that part was looking dark. So I'm just painting that out a bit more. And I think I like the way it looks. This looks really good. I just want to bring the entire opacity down some more. So from 78, just bring it down to about 65%. And this time I want to increase the effect. It looks like it's losing its visibility. So just double click on that. Go back onto the layer 3 and increase it to, let's say 79%. When I hit Command S, that's supposed to apply the adjustment and we're supposed to see it update in real time. So as you can see, it looks a little bit more prominent and that's basically looking very good. So all I'll do now is just click on the exposure, which was the same exposure that I made onto the initial image, and it applies immediately. Now, you remember in the beginning, I said the hair also didn't really blend into the background. That's the last thing I think I want to fix, and then we will be done with the image. So if I go back onto my subject, because remember, that is in the subject group, you can see when I hide that, we can see the original hair showing through, which blends beautifully with the background, right? So that is what I want to paint. I'm going to paint with black on the layer mask attached to it, with a slightly higher flow, let's say 57%. And as I'm painting, we are allowing our background to show through, and it's just allowing the hair to blend in very, very nicely. Awesome. So with just making these little adjustments, you can see that we have added a lot of improvement to the image. She looks like she belongs to the background. Her hair just blends in very well. She looks like, you know, she's fitting in there a lot better compared to this image where, let me just turn on the visibility of that. So over here you can see that even though it looks good, it doesn't look believable. Her portrait in the TV, if you compare it to this right here, I feel this just adds a bit more character, has more depth, and then looks more believable. Let me know what you feel about this tutorial. If you did learn something, let me know in the comments down below. If you want to see more tutorials like this as well, let me know in the comments down below. I will catch you guys in the next video, and remember, don't ever give up.